Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we review books of every genre, all across the board, even things that I don't love, looking for the best of escapist fun books. So today we're doing a romance. This is going to be Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. So this is a pure romance. I don't do too many pure romances. This is actually only the second one I've done out of 70 videos because I tend to like romance, but I like it as part of a bigger book, a bigger story. Like it's the B plot thread through the A plot adventure or whatever it is. But I don't mind romance too much, and we're going to do one here. So this one has, just like a lot of romance, it has to have certain tropes that it follows to get the couple together. So this particular one, the plot revolves around our main character, Stella. The book is from her point of view. And she is running a small business and she's about to lose her small business. So she enters her business into a contest to be featured on an influencer YouTube channel. And the influencer had a questionnaire and she filled it out and she said she was running it with her boyfriend. And she didn't really expect to get picked, but she did. So the person is going to come to see her farm, her Christmas tree farm, and is expecting her boyfriend to be there, but she doesn't have a boyfriend. She does, however, have a best friend. From 10 years, they've been best friends, and so the trope is that she comes to him and basically pleads, please be my boyfriend for a fake, 1 week display of my business. And he says, okay. And then they go on. Okay, so you have the fake boyfriend trope and everything that comes with this that you would classically be aware of. So, they have to practice kissing. Yeah, things like that totally not realistic. Nobody in real life would ever do this. But it can be fun if you like this trope. I will say, if you don't like romance books in general, this would not change your mind. But it was fun for that trope. Okay, so things that I liked. So you do have a lot of the unresolved sexual tension going on between the two characters. It is very clear early on that they both are in love. And they're both self-aware of that. So this is not a book where you get to know the characters along with the character because they've already known each other for a long time. This isn't necessarily a positive thing because a lot of people like that getting to know you stage, and they kind of already skip through that in this book. And it is not getting to realize that you're in love because they already start there too. So that's kind of a weird way to do a romance book because usually those are the two main things that, is the climax of the story, is either they've discovered that they're in love or they discover they're in love. I mean, that's pretty much what it usually is. In this case, it's not that. It is not discovery of love. Instead, it is revealing of love. So it is being honest with each other, which of course leads to another trope. There's lots of miscommunication or lack of communication going on. This can lead to humorous situations, and it can lead to a little bit of frustration of the unrealism from the reader's perspective of going, they're just about to say something and somebody interrupts. And then they're just about to say something and something comes up. And they're just about to and they don't. And things like that kind of constantly as building that tension and building the story. Because that's what this book is all about them kind of coming up to the gumption, I guess, of revealing how they actually feel. And it is a comedy in that respect, lots of humorous situations. Fortunately, it is not strictly humorous in the slapstick, pratfalls type of way. It is mostly the humor. It isn't even in the circumstance of them not communicating. It's usually in the banter. And that's another thing I really liked about this book. The humor in this was good. It was gentle and sweet. The banter between the two always comes across as you're very comfortable with the other person. You're not being mean when you're being snarky. It is this comfortable, genuine humor between the characters. So that comes across really well. The author did a good job on that. Our characters, I do like them. So our main character, Stella, she is a kind, she has her own business, she's competent for the most part, she is attractive, she's funny, she's a good character, but she's not flawless. She is definitely has some flaws, and the main struggle that she's overcoming is abandonment issues. So she's really, really worried, and the author does a good job of detailing why she is worried between family history and stuff, of being abandoned. And so that's the main reason she doesn't communicate with her best friend about why he should be with her for the rest of his life, because she's afraid that if she steps out of their comfort zone, the friend zone that they're in, that he will abandon her. And so the author does a good job with that. So she is a very likable person that you would want to get through a whole book with, but she's not flawless. Our heroine, on the other hand, is also very likable. His name is Luca, and Luca is, competent, he's got a good job, he's kind, he's sensitive, he will stand up to people, so, strong in that sense. He seems very comfortable with himself and his interest in Stella, and he actually comes across as a very idealized man. So he does not have the flaws. So it can become, a little bit unrealistic there, but you like him enough because he's funny enough and nice enough that it's fine that he's not a realistic person. So that's very likable. It comes across, the whole book is also, speaking of idealized, it takes place in a small town, I think it's Oregon, a small town in Oregon, and it again is an idealized small town. Almost everybody is super friendly and in everybody's business, and they love that Stella and Luca are faking getting together because they're all like, oh, they'll be perfect for each other, and it's the kind of thing where somebody will, bring you homemade snacks, that the neighbors look out for each other, that the sheriff will sit on his porch with an unloaded shotgun and, give Luca the shovel talk and stuff. So it's very idealized, and that can be very charming. So the circumstances and the characters, that they all come across very idealized and in a charming way. So I think they did a good job with this. The book is given almost exclusively from Stella's point of view. This is not one where it alternates with the man's point of view or other characters. And I personally like that. That's just a personal preference because I think that it builds that uncertainty and tension. You only know what she knows. So if somebody doesn't come out and say something, she doesn't know it. Instead, you can kind of infer some things, but you don't get certainty about what somebody else is thinking about what she's doing. Like, maybe she does something silly and you see that Luca had seen that she was doing that, okay? Is he thinking fondly of that? Is he excitedly laughing at her at what she was doing? You can only know from her point of view. And that can be a really good thing for building that tension because you have that uncertainty going on. Okay, however, that's not entirely true in that the very end of the book, you get a couple of chapters from Luca's point of view. You get kind of, not quite an epilogue, but really close to it, one point of view and from Luca, and then finally a bonus chapter that goes back in time to what was Luca thinking during this moment. And that can be nice. So the things that I don't like about this book. Okay, so because you don't get the get to know you stage, and you don't get the, you skip all the feeling realization stuff, it can kind of feel like you're not quite building up as much, of the arc of a romance story as you are expecting. So that can be a little bit challenging. This book does have sexually explicit content, mostly towards the very end. Again, there's that unresolved tension throughout the book. He is eyeing her and clearly interested, or she is feeling tingles, that kind of thing. a little bit of hints of what they're doing in their bedroom by themselves, but up until close to the end, there isn't anything explicit, and then you definitely have some explicit scenes, and one of the bonus chapter at the end, from Luca's point of view, is purely explicit. So there is definitely that content in there. It's several pages in multiple places there, so if you don't like that, this is not a clean romance. My overall feeling about this book was pretty positive. I mean, I think that the author did a good job, especially with the humor, the lighthearted tone, the comedy. If somebody likes romance and is okay with the particular trope of the fake boyfriends thing, then I think this was fantastic. If, however, somebody is not into romance or doesn't particularly care for that trope, I wouldn't come out of my way and say, oh, this was so wonderful, you should read it in spite of those things. So that's kind of where I was like, what I should do to rate this book, because it's good for what it is, but it isn't exceptional, for somebody who doesn't love that genre. So I decided to give it a 2 thumbs up because I have to rate it on the merits of what it is, and it does good for what it is. So this is going to be a recommended book for people who like romance. Okay, part 2 is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go to a pure fantasy adventure, The Queen of Blood. The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This is book 1 of a series called Queens of Renthia. Apparently there's another book, there's actually several out there, Queen of Blood, so you might have trouble finding this exact version without also looking for the author. So Durst is the last name of the author. So that's just fantasy adventure. So I think that will be fun. It was recommended, so sounds good. I hope you will join me. Thank you for watching.